What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the potential of a 2024 filler year. This has been a conversation that's gone on online regarding next year and comparing it to, in the way that I've at least seen it, 2025. Now, I believe in order to be considered a filler year, the year after has to be better, but also the year before has to also be better, right? You can't go from a good year to an even better year. Like, that doesn't actually satisfy the definition. So I actually think there's a lot of validity in that. I will be honest, as of maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, I would have told you 2024. I actually think I made videos talking about this. 2024 did initially have all the signs of being a very, very strong year. Now, I think it can be a strong year, okay? But compared to what we just got this year, and compared specifically to what we are most likely getting in 2025, it is actually outrageous, the differences. Now, look, when it comes to 2025, obviously, like, GTA is the thing that everybody talks about when it comes to, making 2024 a filler year, right? That we have to go through this, this drag, this 365 days of, it's just not going to be as impactful as 2025. GTA, look, I'm just as excited for it as you guys are. Maybe some people are more excited, but I can't wait. This is going to be the first GTA game that I fully cover on the channel. I'm pumped. It's actually not just GTA, though. It's other games that you kind of map out in your head, whether they actually are, they said they'll be in 2025, or you just kind of predict it, right? Like a Wolverine game. You don't know that that's going to be 2025, but it really feels like it, right? It's probably not 2024. Now, if it were to come out in November of 2024, that slightly weakens 25 and it slightly strengthens 24. But see, I think about what about Wonder Woman? See, to me, Wonder Woman's got no shot of coming out next year, but it probably comes out in 25 or 26. I think 25, though. Well, that helps 25. You got something like Persona 6. We've actually heard numerous rumors, and I think that's the game people forget about. But that's another one of those kind of under the radar, that's a huge franchise, that's a huge game, and that most likely comes out in 25. Definitely doesn't come out in 24. What about Kingdom Hearts, everybody's favorite, my favorite, Kingdom Hearts 4? Well, that definitely doesn't come out next year. Does that come out in 2025? Maybe 2026, but, if it doesn't come out in 2024, again, that's something that makes it a little bit more of a filler year as well. Now, again, it's not to say filler years can't be good. I would actually argue 2021 was a filler year. Now, that's my, opinion. Gaming industry tends to kind of go back and forth. They do have moments where 2 years in a row can be quite big. In fact, in a way, I think we just had that. 2022, 2023. Both of them pretty big years. 2022 obviously had the likes of, in terms of a PlayStation exclusive, had something like Horizon, but from the game industry, Elden Ring, you could go to Elden Ring, but it had plenty of them. 2023, this year was enormous. This year was probably the biggest year in the last 3 or so. 2020 was massive. Considering all the stuff that happened in the world, 2020 managed to make a really big splash, both before the new generation of consoles came out and after. So I actually think 2021 was Life is Strange True Colors and It Takes Two and Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, for what my money, putting my money on the table, that was actually, those are the 3 best games, in my opinion, of 2021. It Takes Two is a phenomenal game, but it's not you can't look at me with a straight face and tell me that has the same impact, even as a Spider-Man or even a Starfield. Starfield, some people loved it, some people hated it, it was disappointing, it was whatever, but it was a big game. It Takes Two, does that match it? No. Does Life is Strange True Colors? No, I actually really liked it. I think it's the second best game in the franchise after 1. Does that come even close? No. Guardians of the Galaxy, that was probably, in that group that might be my favorite of those 3 games. That game actually didn't even sell all that well. It sold fine, but it didn't sell actually all that great at all, comparing it to the Starfields of the world, the Elden Rings of the world, even a Sifu. A game under the radar somewhat. 2022, Dying Light 2 came out in 2022. There's just all of these games. So I'm trying to make these comparisons to try to... 2022 was big. 2023 was big. 2021 wasn't. 2020 was. So we've actually had several big years in this last little stretch. 2024, I don't think is going to be as big. Now, to the point I just made, it doesn't mean there's nothing. And I think that's really where people almost like borderline disrespect games. You know, I mean, you have the right. You could say whatever you want, think whatever you want. But I feel like because you think to, not you, but, you know, the collective mindset, you think to GTA, you think to whatever, you dismiss a lot of the other games. And when you say 2024 is filler, you're ultimately, or at least some people, they're dismissing like all these games. Look, Suicide Squad could be big. Final Fantasy VII obviously is big, right? Rebirth, that is huge. But does that make the full year? Does Hellblade 2 make the full year? Does Avowed? There are games, and I actually think Hellblade 2 might be the best game that is going to come out next year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might be one of the best games to come out. But it's not going to, I think, be enough. Like what we had just in the fall, just now, like 2 months ago, I don't see that being beaten even with like a full year's worth of games. Like February is kind of packed, March is kind of packed, but much like I said with like, yeah, you know, I like Life is Strange True Colors. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're not even impactful in my life. My game of the year in 2022 was A Plague Tale Requiem. That game, you know, didn't change lives across the board. It didn't sell 10 million units, but I think that game was phenomenal. So I guess my point here is, you know, you don't have to be life-changing. You don't have to make the biggest splash on the industry to be considered good by me. Like, just, you know, be a good game. But the point is, yes, compared to 2025, I do think 2024, it's a whole lot of also what ifs. What if, like, this, you know, behind me, Stellar Blade. Does Stellar Blade even come out in 2024? Now, that might, and it might be good, but it also might not be good. Like, you really don't know. Transformers Reactivate, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Wolf Among Us 2. Wolf Among Us 2 could be big, but I don't know if it'd be big sales. There is also a chance that they mess it up. Like, there's no guarantee, especially in the gaming industry nowadays. So it is a whole lot of what ifs. And yeah, like every game could go wrong, right? Persona 6 could be bad. But, you know, I think there's more. There's definitely more games, I believe, that would release in 25. A Judas of the world. Judas, I don't think, comes out in 24, but it probably does 25 or later. So you can keep going. Like, I could, given enough time in the old noggin, I could probably rifle through more of them, right? And I think that's kind of the point. 2025 is most likely going to be a year that reminds us of this year or even last year. Next year, it's going to have, like, I don't want to dismiss them. It's going to have good games. I'm going to have a lot of fun playing them. And it might have games that are better than a lot of the games that come out, you know, the following year. But the following year, I think, just has so many more. And I guess you also have more chances of hits. And then, yes, you can't deny, I think, the impact of a GTA. Like, nothing can touch a GTA, right? So when that releases in any year, when a Red Dead 3 or when Red Dead 2 came, like that almost makes the whole year. I get that. I get saying that. And then for me, you know, we all have our own personal franchises. Persona 6 elevates whatever year it releases in. Wonder Woman, hopefully, will elevate whatever year it releases in. Wolverine would absolutely help. A Judas game would absolutely, like all of these, actually everyone I've mentioned, Kingdom Hearts 4, to me, they're my own personal, you know, preferences. They all very much would elevate the year that they're in. And it does seem somewhat likely. Now, they each have kind of what-ifs attached to them, so maybe it's not the most likely, but it's somewhat likely they could all come out in the same year. And that is what would really, obviously, you know, make 2025 quite incredible. And even if not, and you get a split, right? 2024 a little bit weaker. 2025 would have GTA, and then maybe half of the games I said. And then 26 would have the other half. And other things, too, right? Like, eventually, Dragon Age has to come out, and Mass Effect, and all that. So, and these are just, like, off the very top of my head. I'm sure there's more. Those 2 years, I think 25 and 26 are going to be big. And generally, at least the way I'm thinking about it now, the gaming industry does do a couple of, like, back-to-back. Like, 2019 was pretty massive. 2020, as I said. So, almost like 2 good years, 1 not so good. 2 good years, 1 not so good. And the events that happened in 2020 definitely messed everything up, but it does seem like we kind of like went back into that little groove that, yeah, every 2 years is pretty good. We just did it. 3rd year, there's games. It's not to dismiss them. Assassin's Creed Red might come out. You know, these games can be good, but the year after, and then the year after that, 2-1 over and over again. So let me know what you think. Again, I've seen this online, wanted to kind of throw in my thoughts there, but you let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.